drop goal.
And Wakey White said, wow, just when you're starting to wonder if they'll ever win again, Wakey come back from the dead against a strong Hull outfit. A real gutsy performance from Trin, who dug deep and survived 2 drop goal attempts from Gale in extra time. The players sprinting from the other end to celebrate with the fans at full time will live long in the memory. Up the Trin.
Yes.
I've written here, weather seemed to play a part in it.
Only from how horrific it was to stand there. But, so I kind of disagree with B. Dawson in that as soon as Connor went off, it was game over. Yes and no, because actually, like from the start of the second half, we didn't really look like we knew how to score again. But the biggest issue, right? So 12-0 up, we put a kick in. I think it was McIntosh, patted it back. It landed in Brad Fash's arms. He had to put the ball down and he scored. That was all he had to do. Maybe step forward 1 step. That was all he had to do. He passes it to Lovadua, who could have put the ball down and scored. But he didn't either. He passed it to Satai, who had 4 players wrapped around him, and then he dropped the ball over the line. And then, in fact, no, it wasn't even, it was at 12-0. Then, from that set, Wakefield went the other end and scored. And yes, okay, we then scored again. But it would have been 18-0 had we scored that one.
And it doesn't sound particularly like the weather was the big issue in that one either, because it sounds like a few guys had their hands on the ball with opportunities to do something. I mean,
there was honestly, you could have driven a bus through the gap. Fash just had to put the ball down. There was both him and Lovadua were stood between. They were like inside the 2 markers, inside 2 defenders. So either one of them, Fash just needed to put the ball down.
Yeah.
And then by the time Satai has it, he can't do anything because he's got 4 players wrapped around him. And in trying to fight to get the ball down, he dropped it.
Yeah. And then you say Asher scored quickly after. That was one of the tries that I think doesn't happen in the dry, because he slid for ages out of a Connor tackle, which does happen in the dry 1-on-1. But still, it got to the goal line. I think maybe Swift's second try was a bit weather assisted as well, but Corey Hall's try was definitely weather assisted in the second half for Trin. So the weather did, I guess, have a part to play in it. Do you think that was as much a factor in your attack going AWOL as Connor going off?
No, I don't think that the weather was particularly a factor at all. Because it was very wet. So if we had dropped the ball a lot, that'd have been one thing. But we didn't have a clue. You know, we had a scrum in the second half, maybe about 30 metres out. And it's difficult to judge from the other end, and with their pitch being slightly funny. But probably 30 metres out. Reynolds feeds the scrum and passes to Gale, who then throws the ball 40 metres into touch. That's not because of the weather. That's because you're an incompetent fool. And then he went over and started yelling at the players outside him. No, they can't catch the ball when you're throwing it over their heads into touch. You know, it's...
So the Connor injury, they weren't huge factors for you then. I mean,
The Connor injury ended up being a factor just because our halfbacks are so rubbish. But it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
At 18-6 up, you need game management. You know, why are you kicking the ball on the 4th tackle when you've got minutes left in the game? Play to 5, put the ball in the corner, put it into touch. That is what Sneed would have done. That's what a good halfback would have done. Or even a halfback with half a brain cell. unlike Luke Gale, who decides to kick it on the 4th tackle for the last 3 sets.
And to add insult to injury, you lost to a team that had Lee Gaskell at fullback. But Reece Lynn got injured really early on, didn't he, for Wakefield? That caused a big hold up in the game. And I'm not sure. I've not seen anything to say exactly what the seriousness is of the Connor or the Lynn injury coming out of the game. I've not seen anything confirmed yet on either of those. I don't know if you've seen anything.
So they think it's one of the CLs for Connor. He was in like a knee brace at the end. Lynn at half time went round on crutches with a boot on.
So that suggests foot or lower leg ankle, maybe.
Yeah. Although I don't know why, when the weather's that bad, why not just take him off down the tunnel rather than taking him to the bench, then giving him a pair of crutches to hop round the edge of the pitch on.
It sounds like Fafita had a bit of an impact for Wakefield. It seems like he had a good game, and obviously Jacob Miller popped up with that 30-metre drop goal to win things. And do you know, the one thing that struck me from the drop goal, because like I said, that the highlights were just loads of tries that looked like wet weather tries, but the one thing that really impressed me with the drop goal was the composure. It didn't, so often, especially when the clock's winding down, you're in golden point extra time, that sort of stuff, and it's a bit scratchy weather conditions wise, there's panic, but there wasn't any. It was really organised and composed by that Wakefield side, a side that haven't done much winning lately, and I think, you know, that's really impressive. Obviously they've gained confidence from coming back into the game and scoring late on to level things up and all of those things that will have made them feel confident going into the golden point extra time, but it sounds like there were a couple of opportunities for Hull in that period that they didn't take, and I just, like I say, I was really impressed by the composure, and it never seemed like anything else. And obviously, I knew what was going to happen, because otherwise, why would it be on the highlight reel? But it looked so controlled and composed, like the outcome was inevitable.
From about 5, well, once it got to 18-12, I felt that it was inevitable what was going to happen. Whether it happened in normal time or extra time, that was the thing that I didn't know. Because, our players were just stupid. And then even in extra time, in Golden Point, we were the team that actually, we had the possession and the position. You know, we made really, really good meters from the kickoff. And then Gill stupidly decided to attempt a drop goal on the 4th. Why not have another run and then try it? So that gave the ball to Wakefield. They then got to about the halfway line and knocked on. So we got the ball again. And then instead of driving towards the sticks, we decided we're going to pass it out to the wing. And then again, instead of taking a drive towards the sticks, Gale decides to try and drop a goal on the 4th. And neither of them he was anywhere near. And then you're handing Wakefield a 7-tackle set, and they just made the yards at that point. Yeah.
Well, credit to Wakefield. They've pulled it out, a game that they probably weren't expecting to get much from, especially at half-time. So well done to Wakefield, well done to Jacob Miller. Scott Taylor got a Grade B dangerous contact charge. Considering he's not played for ages, obviously that was only a 1-match penalty notice, not the 2-match notice. He'll have had a good record. I don't know what that was from, what incident that was from.
I think it was the Reece Lynn injury, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because it was one of those, and where we were, I don't really know how he got injured. All I can think is whether Taylor came in like round the knees I don't know, because I couldn't have even told you which players were involved with the tackle.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully we'll find out what's what with Reece Lynn. It doesn't sound good though, does it?
No.
Okay, do you want to take us through the standings, Sarah?
Yep. St Helens open up a 4-point gap at the top with Catalans and Wigan both on 20 points, then Huddersfield in 4th on 19. Hull SC stay in 5th on 16. Hull KR back in the top 6 on 14 points with Castleford falling out on 12 and Leeds up to 8th on 11. Salford and Warrington are in 9th and 10th and have 10 points each. Wakefield stay 11th but improved to 8 points, and Toulouse stay bottom on 4 points.
Mark, Huddersfield fan Mark at Wilco2205 got in touch about kind of related to the standings, but he said, I've noticed a few times in the past month you guys have talked about a clear top 3, which I thought was a bit harsh on us. We've now won 3 out of 5 league games against those 3, and the games we've lost have been close ones. Surely it's more of a top 4. And, he's kind of got a point, hasn't he, with Huddersfield only 1 point behind Wigan and Catalans and getting to the Challenge Cup final when St Helens and Catalans didn't do so. He's got a point, hasn't he?
He has. Had we not lost to Wakefield, I was going to pick you up on. I think you've been quite down on us as well. We have been the only team that blew Toulouse away as well. But given our performance at the weekend, I thought I'd stay quiet on it.
I think I said when both times we've played you that I don't see that much difference between Wigan and Hull FC this year, other than Wigan are slightly better in the important moments and more often, I think. And we all started the season probably thinking there was a clear top 2, St Helens and Catalans. Both those teams hadn't got worse than last year. I don't think anyone would have said. And all the rest of the teams were clearly chasing them. Wigan had such a hot start that they almost jumped into an elevated position beyond where anyone expected. I certainly didn't expect them to be where they were in the top 2 for the first 8 weeks or so of the season. And really, if they hadn't have seemed to switch off a little bit after getting to the Challenge Cup final and focus more on that, I don't know where they'd have been. But Huddersfield showed they've got a good squad against us, and then Hull FC, like I say, are a pretty even team with Wigan. When you look at that game as well, the Hull Wigan game, how it could have been won by either side going into the last 5 minutes, just like the other Wigan Hull game. Both the Wigan Huddersfield games have been similar nature as well. Both teams have been, in a position to win the game. I almost think, and the other thing I wanted to mention around this that Mark made me think about actually is the Lewis Dodd injury and the Josh Drinkwater injury at Saints and Catalans respectively. I think have pulled those two teams a bit closer to the other teams as well. I still think that their defence sets them apart at St Helens. I think there's something David picked up on it. There's something in this Wigan side this year that is a bit different. It does feel a bit different to last year's Wigan side, certainly. But I think it's fair to say, then Hull KR fans are going to say, well, we're only 2 points behind Hull FC. But I think it's fair to say that top 5 do look the strongest sides. And I think on the day, any of those other top 5 teams can beat St Helens, can beat Catalans. I think that for the other sides, they'd have to be on their day and the other side have a bad day to beat those top 5 sides. I think that's the way I would differentiate it. Maybe at this stage, I think Wigan, Huddersfield and Hull are quite close in many ways. I just think Wigan have got that edge of pulling out in big moments.
I think Wigan have got the longevity, haven't they? Which, winning muscle memory or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And yeah, like you say, they do seem to just pull it out the bag.
Yeah, and I think that's the only reason why Alan has said it quite a bit about it being a clear top 3. I think that's what elevates Wigan slightly. But to be honest, like I say, went into this season not expecting Wigan to be in that top 3. So it's interesting stuff. I think the more it says more, I suppose, about those teams lower down the table, doesn't it? That there is a huge amount of inconsistency amongst. I mean, the top five. The reason why I'm saying top five is because